American history concentrator, which is just another name for a major or course of study. Harvard can't call anything what it is. They have to have fancy lingo for absolutely everything. So I will be sharing with you this lingo as we go along, and I will also be sharing with you my personal experiences and some insider knowledge about life here at Harvard. Now the second major theme of today is of course famous Harvardians. So as you may know, a lot of famous people went to Harvard. You can't point to a building without listing at least a few famous alumni who spent some time there. Now for our first example of this, I direct you to, it's kind of hard to see, there's this yellow house right behind the trees over there. That is Wadsworth House. It has been home to 10 Harvard presidents and was built in 1726. It was also home to none other than General George Washington during the American Revolution. Many people are surprised to know that Harvard was the headquarters for Washington's troops while the British were occupying Boston 3 years before we signed the United States Constitution. But in 1636, it was called New College. It was founded by the Massachusetts Bay Colony 16 years after the Pilgrims landed here at Plymouth Rock. And it wasn't until a few years later that the college received its first donation by a man by the name of John Harvard, who donated a small sum of money to the university. Therefore, they deemed they should rename it after Mr. Harvard. I really wish that you could donate a small sum of money today and have any. Now it takes about $250 million. So the most recent name change was a building.
ఇదంతా హార్వర్డ్ యార్డ్ అని హార్వర్డ్ క్యాంపస్ అక్కడేవో రీయూనియన్ ఇవి జరుగుతున్నాయంట రీయూనియన్ జరుగుతుందంట సో ఇట్స్ క్లోజ్డ్ అందుకే మేము వేరే ఎంట్రన్స్ నుంచి వెళ్ళాల్సి వస్తుంది సో మా టూర్ గైడ్ కూడా ఇక్కడే హార్వర్డ్లో చదువుకునే అమ్మాయి ఆమె పేరు కిమ్మి అంట ఆమె థర్డ్ ఇయర్ హిస్టరీ మేజర్ చదువుతుందంట రైట్ నౌ షీఈస్ గివింగ్ అస్ ఎ టూర్ తీసుకెళ్తుంది అందరినీ.
However, we weren't much of a university back then. So Harvard's first graduating class graduated a whopping 9 students on commencement day. And it was basically a training ground for ministers. So the Harvard we imagine today, that's very interdisciplinary and has all of these options for study, didn't exist for a very long time. But we did add on the first medical school in 1782. And throughout the 1800s, just as the United States expanded, so too did Harvard. So we would quickly add on the divinity school, the dental school, the law school, the business school. And we were growing more and more to the university that you see today. However, we were missing something very major. Does anyone want to take a guess, or do they know what that was?
Engineering, IT?
We had engineering.
Oh, you did?
We had education.
No?
We had the law school. It's something nothing like that. Think more fundamental. Technology. We had technology.
Architecture.
We had to
Law.
Come on, guys.
ఏంటంటే
Women. Women, guys. So Harvard didn't have any women. In 1879, Harvard attempted to rectify this by creating a program called the Harvard Annex, which was located all the way down the street, way over there. And it was later renamed Radcliffe College and would become one of the foremost women's colleges in the world. However, it wasn't the way we typically think of separate colleges. So there wasn't 2 sets of faculty. The professors would come over to this area in the morning and teach the men, and then when they were done with that, they would walk right on over and teach the women in the afternoon, because it was more about segregation than anything else. However, in the 1940s, as many of you may know, women began to take a much more prominent role in studies and business and economic worlds here in the United States. So in the 1940s, when all of the men were off fighting in the war, the professors decided this was a very inefficient system which they could deal with when there was a reason, but all of the men were gone. There was a very small population of men on campus, so they invited the women to come over to this area to take their classes. And they continued to do this until the war was over. And when the men came back, they wanted the women kicked out. They wanted the Harvard Yard back just to themselves. They wanted the women to go back to Radcliffe. And the women were not very happy about this. They had enjoyed taking their classes in Harvard Yard. However, it didn't matter. The women were forced to go back to Radcliffe. And it wasn't until 1977 that Radcliffe and Harvard officially joined. So women could not receive Harvard degrees until 1977. And it actually wasn't until 1999, which was only 18 years ago, that women and men received the same degrees from Harvard. Prior to that, women's degrees were signed by the Radcliffe president, not the Harvard president, and they were clearly differentiated at graduation. There was also different graduation ceremonies. So it's not even been 2 decades that women and men had had even kind of the same experience here at Harvard. So does that mean that 1999 was the end of sexism at Harvard?
Yeah, I guess. Yes.
Yeah?
Victory.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad you all think so. But I can say that we've come a very long way. So we currently have, and I'm very happy about this, our first female president of Harvard University, none other than Dr. Drew Philpott Bouse. However, no one thinks we have a female president because her name is Drew, but that's okay. She shows up at speeches and a lot of people are like, what? But yes, she's doing an absolutely wonderful job. And also since 2010, the incoming class of freshmen has consistently been more women than men. So for the past 7 years or so, women have been a higher percentage of people here at Harvard, which is very, very exciting. Interestingly enough, I was at the Harvard Law graduation ceremony a few days ago, and they said that this was the first year that there was equal gender representation. So yeah.
Wow.
So I have majors because of that. Does anyone have any question about Harvard academics, financial aid, admissions?
Is it still the same now though? You
Yes.
said it's the 1930s.
No, that's just when it started. So before then, we had a lot of religious education, and that's no longer a part of our academics.
Did you take CS50?
No. I took the much better course that teaches you one programming language in a semester, like you're supposed to.
Okay.
Which is CS10. Yes. After high school, you can No, you go high school here. Yeah.
What language is it?
Oh my gosh, so Harvard offers every single language in the world. Harvard also has a policy that if you want to learn something, there is not a class offered. You get 5 students to take it, and Harvard will hire a professor to teach you it. For example, 2 people in the world speak Sumerian. Harvard offers Sumerian. So you can learn any language, you can learn any topic that you want.
What about programming?
Programming languages, anything. You could also do like an independent study if you wanted to learn something particular.
Are the 4 like designated or you
in CS50 they learn C, C++, Java, and Python.
Oh, they're all similar.
Yeah, but still, like it's confusing to do in a span of 9 weeks.
But then C++ is hard.
I still think it's crazy. I don't know how do you design a course that...
Yeah, that's a lot in 9 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
it's a lot in 9 weeks is the big problem. Okay, someone asked about financial aid. One of the really cool things about Harvard is that 1 in 5 students here pay absolutely nothing. And that is because if your familial income is less than $60,000 USD, Harvard is free for you. And the admissions process is need blind, meaning they don't know how much money you have until you get in. So Harvard is affordable for everyone. It really is. Okay, we're going to argue. Why do you think Harvard isn't affordable for everyone?
Well, first of all, you live in Boston.
No, you don't.
Boston's warm. Big city.
Not to
And
be admitted, but to go here, you have to pay to live here.
No, you don't. If you are if financial aid includes absolutely everything. Room, board, dining, unlimited dining plan, housing for 4 years, your plane ticket to get here a stipend for books and a $300 winter coat stipend. No. I'm about to graduate. I have never paid one dime to Harvard.
Really? You just got financial aid, right?
Wow.
Pure financial aid. Harvard doesn't offer scholarships twice in life.
Really?
What else money did they give me?
Did they give you like?
Oh, they gave me $400 during spring break so I could go somewhere.
Do they give it to you every month or like once, like a year?
They give it to you in the beginning.
In the beginning, but then like
semester.
every month you don't have any payment, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, we got it. Which is actually super cool. We'll be walking around because it's much more about student life here at Harvard and less about the history and prestige and all of that good stuff. So how many of you have seen here? Everybody? Most everyone? Yeah. Cool, high five. Yeah. Okay, so here at Harvard, after you are a freshman, which everyone lives in that block that we saw earlier, you get sorted into upperclassmen houses. We totally think that she stole the idea from us because housing day is one of the biggest events on campus. So essentially what happens is all the freshmen are crouched down in their rooms. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. They're terrified because they don't know which house they're going to get. And all of the upperclassmen storm the yard wearing the costumes and emblems of their house. And they get sorted into their houses. So we run into their rooms, we bang on their doors, and we let them know which house they got. So this is Adam's house. This is my lovely house. I mean, it's been home to people such as Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Henry Kissinger, Robert Frost. The houses are beautiful. They each contain their own dining halls, their own gyms, their own libraries. So anything you could possibly need is in your house. They all have their own traditions. For example, at Harvard in Adam's house, every Thursday is Carpe, where you all get together, you have wine and you talk. So the houses have their own various traditions, some of them which are like funnier, such as Boho House, which is they have the polar bear as their mascot, and they do some crazy things out on their quad. They play Quidditch often, so Harvard has their very own official Quidditch team, so you see a bunch of nerdy people rolling around with broomsticks in between their legs, trying to like jog across campus. We are very competitive with our Quidditch too. We actually travel all across the country to play with our Quidditch team. There is actually a Quidditch league. So there's always a lot of fun things to do here at Harvard. Each house has their very own cool thing. For example, Adams has a theater, and we also have a printing press in the basement, which is an art studio in a space, and an original printing press where you can learn how they used to print back in the olden days. Even though I have to admit that Lowell House has us beat out on the cool factor because they have a rock climbing wall. So very fun things to do here at Harvard. If you're worried about your feet, we are headed to our very last stop, which isn't far at all, so I don't want any of you to be too concerned.
So how?
So this is the whole other half of Harvard that most people don't come to see, and it is all just our upperclassmen houses. So this house right here with the nice blue bell tower is none other than Lowell House. There's actually a Lowell House Bell Society that rings that bell every morning. We hate them. I do not understand why you would become a part of Lowell House Bell Society, but they are really fun. Some notable alumni of Lowell House includes none other than Natalie Portman, and as an upperclassman, Matt Damon lived there.
Oh, really? Am I right there?
Yes.
They're there right now?
No.
Not there right now, but Matt Damon actually wrote Good Will Hunting for a final project while he was living in Lowell House. So he was taking a film course where they had to write up a script for the end of that class. He wrote Good Will Hunting, and by the end of the year he had an Oscar. So things worked out well for him in that class.
Did he graduate?
He didn't. No.
Another one.
So we always say here that you don't drop out of Harvard because it's hard. You drop out of Harvard because you became like a millionaire. Like those are the only options. Like no one drops out because they can't take it anymore. Because Harvard actually is really easy. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. The hardest part about Harvard is getting in. Harvard has massive grade inflation. So the average grade here at Harvard is an A. The average grade here at Harvard is an A. Someone asked me about that lovely building away behind you. That is the Lampoon Castle, which is Harvard's oldest comedic magazine. Now, actually, the Lampoon doesn't write much, even though they're a magazine. They basically sit in that tower and think for months about how best to prank the student body, and they come up with massive pranks. For the last stop of the tour, I will tell you a few of them. So last year, the Harvard Crimson, which is Harvard's official college newspaper, is located right down the street. And the Lampoon just thinks that they take themselves too seriously. So since they are the oldest collegiate magazine in the country, they have this chair, which is the editor's chair. And it is really old, really big, made out of bronze. Every editor carves their name in it once they've been the editor. And the Lampoon really likes to steal it. So over the years, it's now bolted to the floor. There are chains that go across each leg that connect it to the ground. The Crimson is really tired of the Lampoon people stealing that chair. But last year, someone decided to steal it. They walked in, they saw where bolt cutters had undone it, and they'd like gotten it out the back, but no one could find it. It'd been a few days, they had stormed the Lampoon, they'd looked all over campus, they couldn't find the chair anywhere, and then all of a sudden, they checked some newspapers the next day and realized what had happened. So the Lampoon people had gotten the chair onto a train to New York City. This was the height of the election. So they walked right on into Trump Tower. They went up to the reception desk and they said, "Hello, we are from the Harvard Crimson, Harvard's official newspaper." They were wearing all these nice tuxes and outfits. They said, "We would really like to talk to Mr. Trump because we want to give him Harvard's official endorsement for President of the United States." So they called on up. They really didn't think this was going to happen. They thought it was like 1 in a million, like they didn't have an appointment. So they called up. He happened to be there. He said, "Come right on up." So they went up there. They said, "We want to endorse you." He said, "Absolutely." He sat in the chair. He gave him a nice big thumbs up. And the next day, all the newspapers around the country were reporting that Harvard had officially endorsed Donald Trump for president. They had a lot of backlash, the Harvard Crimson, to deal with that, because one, Harvard is supposed to be a nonpartisan university, and also at the time, a poll indicated that less than 3% of students and faculty supported Donald Trump. So it was this huge mess, but it was absolutely hilarious. And that is the kind of things that the Lampoon likes to do. Last week, they hacked into the Harvard Crimson database and changed all of the official commencement articles to like pictures of Mark Zuckerberg without teeth and like really funny headings. And, so that's basically what you do if you get on the Lampoon. You don't actually write anything. So that's crazy. So our final story for today is going to be about an unofficial graduation requirement here at Harvard. So I want you all to close your eyes for a second and imagine that it's winter in Boston. It's freezing cold. Temperatures drop below zero for weeks at a time, and it's finals period. If it wasn't stressful enough during a normal finals period, we're all just cranky. It's freezing cold. The week before finals, Harvard has what is called reading period, which is essentially a week where classes are canceled and you're just supposed to study. You're supposed to just hunker down and study before finals start. And students become very stressed during this time. They don't have classes, they don't have anything to distract them. They're living in the library, they're not brushing their teeth, they're sleeping in the library, we're not eating properly, things get a little crazy and they don't smell the best around reading period. But Harvard has a beloved tradition where the night before finals start, we all gather in the yard and then we prepare for what is called primal scream. So at the stroke of midnight, all the students gather around a statue in the yard and we all get really low and we all together go. Everyone do it with me. You ready? I'm gonna do it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Ah! Loudly as we can. But what I failed to
Oh my God.
campus. Everyone participates. If you're not one of the 2,000 students participating, you're one of the 3,000 watching. So everyone comes out for primal scream. Harvard really doesn't like that we do this. They pretend not to know about it, but the fact that there's like 6 ambulances right outside the gates indicates to me that they probably do. No, and those ambulances are often necessary because people get trampled every year. But it's one of the most fun things about Harvard is the fun traditions that we have. They kind of go past the stereotype of a typical Harvard student. So my final announcement for the day is that if you enjoyed this tour, please go on Yelp or TripAdvisor and say like, Kimmy, you were wonderful, you were funny. Even though we couldn't go into Harvard, it was great. If you hated it or really upset and want your money back, go Jessica, this was absolutely horrible. I couldn't stand this and this is not okay. Either one is perfectly fine with me, just make sure you get the names right. So for our final stop, we will just be heading over to the Harvard shop, which is the student-run souvenir shop right there.
10,000. 6,000?
About 6.
Okay. Throughout the world, children will be coming from throughout the world.
Yes.
As you were telling me that only if at all 2 students are there from any language,
yeah.
they will carry on the lessons.
Yes. So,
No.
yeah.
Can we have all the details in the languages? What
Sure.
are the courses are
Let me
there?
get my phone and I'll tell you some that they offer.